The Cadillac glided to a halt in front of the Grandview Hotel, a beacon of old-world charm nestled in the heart of downtown Nashville. Dust motes danced in the late afternoon sun, catching the gleam of the polished chrome. Inside, Vernon Turner stretched, groaning softly as his joints protested the long drive from Memphis. He wasn't old, not really, but the miles had a way of adding years to a man's bones. He ran a hand through his slightly thinning brown hair and adjusted the collar of his neatly pressed shirt. He was here on important business, a little scouting trip for a certain very famous friend, and he needed a good night's rest. The Grandview certainly looked the part. Its facade was an elegant blend of brick and limestone, adorned with intricate carvings and massive arched windows. A doorman stiff in his dark uniform nodded curtly as Vernon emerged from the car, and a bellhop quickly materialized to unload his single suitcase. "Just one bag, sir?" the bellhop asked, his tone betraying a hint of surprise, as if expecting a cavalcade of luggage from someone arriving in a car like Vernon's. "Just one for tonight," son Vernon replied with a tired smile. "Long trip. Just need a bed in the quiet corner." He stepped into the lobby, and the air immediately changed. It was cooler, perfumed with a faint scent of old money and polish. Marble floors gleamed under a magnificent crystal chandelier that cascaded light across the room. Velvet armchairs and ornate mahogany tables dotted the space, giving off an aura of hushed elegance. It was the kind of place where you instinctively lowered your voice, even if you were talking to yourself. Vernon made his way to the front desk, a long, imposing counter of dark wood. Behind it stood a man whose face seemed permanently etched into a polite yet condescending sneer. He was impeccably dressed, his dark suit crisp, his hair slicked back with an almost unnatural sheen. A name tag on his low read, "Mr. Sterling, front desk manager." "Good evening," Vernon said, trying to keep the weariness from his voice. "Vernon Turner. I believe I have a reservation." Mr. Sterling barely glanced up, his eyes scanning a computer screen with an air of profound boredom. "Name, sir?" he asked, his voice clipped and precise like the snap of a fresh linen napkin. "Turner? Vernon Turner." Mr. Sterling tapped a few keys, his fingers moving with a deliberate slowness that grated on Vernon's frayed nerves. Then he paused, his lips pursed. He looked up, finally meeting Vernon's gaze, though his eyes seemed to slide right past him, as if looking at something unpleasant stuck to the bottom of his shoe. "Mr. Turner," he began, a sigh escaping his lips that was meant to convey deep regret, but only sounded like annoyance. "I'm afraid we have no record of a reservation under that name," Vernon frowned. "That can't be right. I called in myself last week. Spoke to a lovely young lady. I believe her name was Brenda. Confirmed everything." Mr. Sterling offered a thin, humorless smile. "My apologies, sir. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. As you can see, the hotel is quite bustling tonight." He gestured vaguely around the nearly empty lobby. There were a few guests checking in at another counter, but the overall impression was one of spacious, almost desolate quiet. "Bustling?" Vernon asked, a touch of exasperation creeping into his voice. "It looks like a ghost town in here, Mr. Sterling." The manager's smile tightened. "Appearances can be deceiving, Mr. Turner. We are fully booked, every room taken. There's simply nothing available." A wave of frustration washed over Vernon. He'd driven all day, navigating country roads and city traffic. He was tired, hungry, and knew his friend would be calling, soon, expecting an update on the local music scene he was scoping out. More than that, he felt dismissed, treated like a nuisance rather than a paying guest. "Look, I really need a room," Vernon pressed, trying a more earnest approach. "It's important. I'm here for a very important client. He's expected in town soon, and I need a base of operations." He didn't want to drop names, but the situation was becoming dire. Mr. Sterling raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "I'm sure your client is very important, Mr. Turner. However, our policy is quite clear. No reservation, no room, and as I stated, we are completely booked." He turned back to his computer, a clear dismissal. Vernon felt a hot flush creep up his neck. He wasn't a man given to grand gestures or outbursts, but this was beyond rude. This was outright disrespect. He'd worked hard, spent his life dedicated to a man who, despite his fame, never forgot where he came from, or how to treat people with kindness. And here he was being treated like he was begging for a handout. "So, you're telling me," Vernon said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone, "that even if I walked in here with a briefcase full of cash, you wouldn't have a single room for me?" Mr. Sterling finally looked back at him, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, amusement mixed with disdain. "Mr. Turner, even if you were to offer us every penny you owned, and then some, the answer would remain the same. We are at full capacity. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have other guests to attend to." He turned his attention to a small older couple who had just approached the desk, offering them a practiced, yet still cold smile. Vernon stood there for a moment. The weight of the day, the insult and the sheer audacity of the man pressing down on him, his mind, usually calm and methodical, began to churn with a strange, impulsive idea. He thought of his friend, who was probably just finishing up a jam session at Graceland, full of boundless energy and of fierce loyalty to those he cared about. His friend wouldn't stand for this, not for a minute. He took a deep breath, pulling out his wallet. Not for money, but for the battered leather phone book tucked inside. He found the number, the one he knew by heart, and stepped away from the counter, pulling his small bag closer. He needed to make a call, a very important call. Mr. Sterling's smirk would vanish, he promised himself. If only he knew who Vernon Turner really worked for. This Grandview Hotel, in all its supposed grandeur, was about to learn a lesson in hospitality. Elvis Presley style. Vernon retreated to a quiet corner of the Grandview lobby. Finding a discreet armchair partially hidden behind a towering potted palm, his hand trembled slightly as he pulled out his portable phone, a clunky modern marvel for its time, but one he rarely used unless it was truly necessary. This was necessary. More than necessary. He dialed the familiar Memphis number, the one that went straight through to the private line at Graceland. It rang twice, then a familiar drawl answered, thick with a playful energy even over the phone. "Vernon, my man, you made it to Nashville yet. How's the Grand Ole Opry looking these days? Did you find us a good steakhouse for when we roll in?" It was Elvis, always full of questions, always eager for the next adventure. Vernon tried to keep his voice level, but the frustration seeped through. "Elvis, I made it, but I got a bit of a problem here at the Grandview." There was a pause on the other end. Elvis could pick up on a change in tone quicker than anyone. "Problem? What kind of problem, Vern? Are they treating you right?" His voice, usually light and joking, sharpened with an edge of concern. Loyalty was everything to Elvis, and he considered Vernon more than just an employee. He was family. "They won't give me a room," Elvis Vernon explained, recounting the encounter with Mr. Sterling, the condescending attitude, the flimsy excuses, and the outright dismissal. He didn't need to. The raw facts were infuriating enough. He said they were fully booked, but the lobby's empty and he just looked at me like I was dirt. He said, "What?" He looked at my friend Vernon Turner like dirt. "No room. That's a load of malarkey. You had a reservation, didn't you?" "I did, Elvis, I swear. I confirmed it last week." But he just kept saying no, even when I told him I really needed it for an important client. Vernon sighed, rubbing his temples. Said even if I brought a briefcase full of cash, they wouldn't have a room. The silence on Elvis's end was different this time. It wasn't a pause of thought, but a pause before an explosion. When he spoke again, his voice was dangerously quiet. A tone Vernon knew well. It was the tone that usually preceded something big. "A briefcase full of cash, huh?" Elvis mused. "He said that even if you offered him every penny you own." "That's what he said, Elvis. Every penny." "Well, now, that just ain't right, Vern. That just ain't the way people ought to be treated. There was a sound of movement like Elvis was pacing, maybe running a hand through his hair. So, you're telling me this Grandview Hotel, this fancy place, they just turned you away? No explanation, no apology. Just because they felt like it? Pretty much, Elvis. Just plain rude. Another beat of silence, then Elvis's voice boomed, though he quickly lowered it again, probably remembering Vernon was in a public lobby. All right, here's what we're gonna do. Vern, you listen close. You go back up to that desk, you tell that Mr. Sterling, or whoever's in charge, that I, Elvis Presley, just heard Bird Denon, you tell him we're gonna make them an offer for the whole darn place, Elvis declared, a thrill of excitement already in his voice. If they won't give you a room, then we'll just buy the whole hotel. How about that for a room key? Vernon almost dropped the phone. Buy the whole hotel, Elvis. Are you serious? We'll call it, I don't know, the Heartbreak Hotel. But in a good way. A place where nobody ever gets turned away. Vernon could picture Elvis grinning, already caught up in the impulsive grandeur of the idea. This was vintage. Elvis quick to anger at an injustice, even quicker to turn that anger into a grand, unforgettable gesture of generosity and loyalty. His wealth wasn't just for cars and jumpsuits, it was a tool, a weapon even to make things right in the world as he saw it. Elvis, that's a lot of money, Vernon ventured, still a little stunned. Money ain't an issue when it comes to treating folks right, Vern? Elvis shot back, his voice regaining its usual exuberant volume. Besides, think of the fun we'll have. We'll turn that stuffy place into something special, a real Nashville landmark. A place where folks feel welcome, no matter who they are or how many bags they got. So what do you want me to do? Vernon asked. He knew when Elvis got an idea like this, there was no stopping him. All right, Vern, here's the plan. First, you get the name of the owner or the general manager. Whoever can make a decision, like this. Then you call my lawyer, old Colonel Parker's got his number. Tell him to get on the next flight to Nashville, bring all the paperwork he needs, and a truckload of money. We're buying that hotel tonight. You make sure that Mr. Sterling knows exactly why we're buying it. Tell him it's because he couldn't find a room for my good friend Vernon Turner, and tell him he might want to start polishing his resume. Vernon chuckled a genuine laugh for the first time all day. Consider it done, Elvis. He hummed up, feeling a surge of adrenaline replacing his earlier weariness. He looked across the lobby at Mr. Sterling, who was now engaged in a hushed conversation with another hotel employee, still radiating an air of untouchable superiority. Vernon stood up, adjusted his shirt once more, and walked back towards the front desk, a new spring in his step. The Grandview Hotel was about to get a taste of Memphis hospitality, whether it liked it or not. And Vernon Turner, the man who couldn't get a room, was about to become the man who helped buy the entire establishment. Vernon approached the front desk again, his posture straighter, his eyes holding a new, determined glint. Mr. Sterling looked up, a flicker of annoyance crossing his perfectly composed face. He clearly expected Vernon to complain further, perhaps beg for a cot in the lobby, or finally slink away. Yes, Mr. Turner, he asked, his tone dripping with patronizing patience. Have you found alternative accommodations? I assure you, there are several fine motels on the outskirts of town. Actually, Mr. Sterling, Vernon interrupted, his voice calm but firm. I have, and then some. He paused for effect. I'd just spoken with my client. He was quite distressed to hear about the lack of hospitality at the Grandview. Mr. Sterling scoffed softly. I'm certain your client is accustomed to a certain level of attention, Mr. Turner. But, as I explained, our hands are tied. We simply have no vacancies. Oh, I think you will, Vernon said, a small knowing smile playing on his lips. You see, my client has authorized me to make an offer. A very significant offer, in fact. Mr. Sterling raised an eyebrow, a hint of genuine curiosity finally breaking through his veneer of indifference. An offer, Mr. Turner. For what? Precisely. For the entire hotel, Mr. Sterling, Vernon stated. Watching the manager's face carefully, my client wishes to purchase the Grandview Hotel on the spot. For a long moment, Mr. Sterling's face remained frozen. Then a slow, derisive chuckle bubbled up from his chest. It started softly, then grew louder, morphing into an outright laugh. He clapped a hand over his mouth, trying to stifle the sound, but his shoulders shook with suppressed mirth. The other hotel employee, a young woman with wide, startled eyes, looked between Vernon and her manager, clearly unsure how to react. Mr. Turner. Mr. Sterling finally managed to choke out, wiping a tear from the corner of his eye. Are you quite well? Perhaps the drive has left you disoriented. You wish to buy the Grandview Hotel. You, who couldn't even secure a single room. He laughed again, louder this time, clearly enjoying what he perceived as a desperate, pathetic joke. Vernon didn't flinch. He let the laughter wash over him, then fixed Mr. Sterling with an unwavering stare. I assure you, Mr. Sterling, I am perfectly well, and my client is entirely serious. He values loyalty and kindness above all else. And when he heard how his friend was treated here, tonight, he decided that a change was in order. Now, if you'll be so kind as to give me the name and contact information for the owner or the general manager who has the authority to sell this establishment, I can put my client's lawyers in touch. Mr. Sterling's laughter died in his throat. He saw the seriousness in Vernon's eyes, the complete lack of wavering. His sneer began to crumble, replaced by a flicker of confusion, then unease. Mr. Turner, this is ridiculous. Who exactly is your client? He demanded, his voice losing its haughty edge, replaced by a note of genuine suspicion. Vernon leaned slightly over the counter, his voice dropping to a low, deliberate tone. The name hung in the air, heavy and impossibly grand. Mr. Sterling's jaw dropped. His face, usually a mask of control, went slack with shock. The young female employee gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Elvis Presley? Mr. Sterling whispered, as if the very sound of the name might cause the crystal chandelier to fall from the ceiling. You're telling me Elvis Presley wants to buy our hotel? That's exactly what I'm telling you, Vernon confirmed, a quiet satisfaction spreading through him. He wants to buy it tonight. Cash, no fuss. And he wants it because his friend, Vernon Turner, was denied a room. He said, if you don't have a room for me, then the hotel needs a new owner who does. Mr. Sterling swallowed hard. His eyes darted around the opulent lobby as if seeing it for the first time through the lens of a potential immediate sale. The sheer audacity of it, the impulsive wealth, the loyalty, it was so utterly spectacularly Elvis Presley. This is unheard of, Mr. Sterling stammered, his voice thin. The owner, Mr. Thompson? He's not here. He's in Miami. Then you'd better get him on the phone, Mr. Sterling, Vernon instructed, his calm demeanor in stark contrast to the manager's rising panic. Because by the time my client's lawyers are finished, this hotel will belong to him. And I imagine Mr. Thompson would like to be involved in the process of selling his life's work rather than reading about it in tomorrow's newspaper. Pulled a business card from his wallet, a plain one with his name and Elvis's private management office number. He slid it across the counter. This is my direct line. My client's lead attorney, Mr. Goldman, will be calling Mr. Thompson's lawyer within the hour. Once you provide the contact information if the hourly, my corny e. Mr. Sterling stared at the card, then at Vernon, then at the marble floor, as if trying to locate a trapdoor to escape. The arrogance had completely evaporated, replaced by genuine fear and disbelief. He knew the stories of Elvis Presley's incredible spontaneous purchases, a fleet of Cadillacs, Graceland itself, random gifts of houses and jewelry, but a hotel for such a reason. It was beyond belief, yet entirely believable when it came to the king. I'll call Mr. Thompson immediately, Mr. Sterling finally managed to say, his voice barely a whisper. He grabbed a phone from beneath the counter, his fingers fumbling with the dial. The young employee just stared, her mouth still agape. Vernon simply nodded. He knew his part was done. He delivered the message. Now the wheels of a very large, very famous machine would begin to turn. He turned and walked back to his armchair by the poem, a serene smile on his face. He might not have a room yet, but he was fairly certain he'd have the entire hotel by morning. Mr. Sterling's frantic call to Mr. Thompson, the owner of the Grandview Hotel, was a masterpiece of panic, stuttering, and incredulous pronouncements. Vernon watched from his armchair as the manager paced behind the front desk, one hand clutching the phone, the other running through his slicked-back hair, ruining its pristine condition. He could hear snippets. Elvis Presley wants to buy the hotel because he wouldn't give his friend a room cash tonight. On the other end of the line, Mr. Thompson, relaxing by a pool in Miami, initially thought it was a prank. He'd owned the Grandview for 30 years, a legacy from his father. It was a grand old dame, but a demanding one. The hotel was struggling quietly. Maintenance was expensive, bookings were down, and the competition from newer, trendier establishments was fierce. He'd even thought about selling, but couldn't bring himself to let go of the family legacy for less than it was worth. Then Mr. Sterling, near hysterics, convinced him of the urgency. "He's got lawyers on standby, sir. They're already looking into a hostile takeover if you don't agree. And the man Vernon Turner, he's just sitting there, calm as you please, waiting for your answer." The absurdity of the situation warred with the undeniable truth. A direct offer from Elvis Presley, cash on the spot. Thompson knew Elvis's reputation for impulsive, lavish spending. It was unthinkable, yet completely within the realm of possibility for a man of Elvis's unprecedented wealth and eccentric nature. Within minutes, Mr. Thompson was on a three-way call with his Nashville-based attorney. Vernon, still observing from his comfortable vantage point, saw the shift. Mr. Sterling's panic intensified, but there was also a new dawning realization in his eyes. This was happening. By the time Vernon's phone buzzed with an incoming call, it was barely an hour after his initial conversation with Mr. Sterling. It was Mr. Goldman, Elvis's lead attorney. "We're talking over market value just to get it done tonight." "So it's really happening?" Vernon asked, a tremor of excitement in his voice. "It's happening," Goldman confirmed. "I'm on the private jet now, headed to Nashville. I'll be there in under 2 hours. Have a preliminary contract drawn up. We'll meet Mr. Thompson's lawyer at the hotel. You just hold tight." "And maybe," Goldman added with a chuckle, "you might be staying up late, but it'll be in your hotel." He looked at Mr. Sterling, who was now off the phone, looking utterly shell-shocked. The manager met his gaze, his eyes wide. Then he quickly averted them, suddenly finding the polished marble floor incredibly interesting. "Mr. Sterling," Vernon said, pushing himself out of the armchair. "Looks like we're going to have a very busy night. I'm told Mr. Goldman, Elvis Presley's attorney, will be here shortly to aid the acquisition. I imagine you'll want to inform your staff." Mr. Sterling nodded mutely. "Still, Mr. Turner, of course, this is extraordinary." "It certainly is," Vernon agreed. "And it all started because a gentleman couldn't get a room. Word spread through the hotel's skeleton crew like wildfire," bellhops whispered. Cleaning staff peeked from behind corners, and kitchen staff poked their heads out. The king was buying the Grandview because of a denied room. The story was so outlandish, so utterly Elvis, that it had to be true. Less than 2 hours later, just as promised, the hotel lobby doors swung open, and 2 impeccably dressed men strode in. One was Mr. Goldman, a sharp-eyed lawyer with a no-nonsense demeanor. The other was Mr. Thompson's lawyer, looking harried and slightly bewildered. They went directly to a large, ornate lounge area off the main lobby, where Mr. Sterling had nervously set up a table. Vernon was invited to sit in a silent observer to the whirlwind of legal jargon and frantic phone calls. The negotiations, if you could call them that, were swift. Elvis's offer was so generous that Mr. Thompson, despite his attachment to the hotel, couldn't refuse. The paperwork had been drafted at breakneck speed, and within another hour a mountain of documents was signed. At precisely 10:47 p.m., Mr. Goldman shook hands with Mr. Thompson's lawyer. "It's done," he announced, his voice ringing with finality. "The Grandview Hotel is now officially under new ownership. On behalf of Mr. Elvis Presley, I welcome you to a new era." Vernon felt a profound sense of satisfaction. It wasn't about the power or the money. About how a simple act of disrespect could trigger such an overwhelming response, purely out of loyalty and a desire for fairness. Mr. Sterling, who had hovered nervously throughout the entire process, now approached the table looking utterly lost. "Mr. Turner, Mr. Goldman, what does this mean for the staff?" Mr. Goldman looked at him, a slight frown on his face. "That, Mr. Sterling, will be up to the new owner. Mr. Presley will be arriving first thing in the morning to address the staff personally. Until then, the hotel will continue to operate as usual, though I expect no further can know." He felt the wave of exhaustion, but it was a good kind of exhaustion. "Well, I suppose since I'm technically the reason for all this," he said, looking pointedly at Mr. Sterling, "I should probably get that room now, the one you couldn't find." Mr. Sterling's face was a mixture of humiliation and dawning fear. He fumbled with the key card. "Of course, Mr. Turner. Right this way. The presidential suite it's available." Vernon smiled. "No, thank you, Mr. Sterling. I think a regular room will do just fine. After all, I just want a bed and a quiet corner." Picked up his single suitcase, and for the first time, felt truly at home in the Grandview Hotel. Tomorrow, a new day and a new Grandview would begin. The news hit Nashville like a thunderclap. By morning, every local radio station was abuzz, and the headlines of the Nashville Banner screamed, "Elvis Boo's Grandview Hotel denied friend a room." The story spread like wildfire, a tale so outlandish and yet so perfectly Elvis that it instantly became legend. Reporters swarmed the Grandview, their cameras flashing, microphones thrust at bewildered staff, who could only confirm wide-eyed that it was true. Vernon, after a surprisingly good night's sleep in his now guaranteed room, came down to a lobby transformed from quiet elegance to chaotic media circus. He spotted Mr. Sterling looking pale and disheveled, trying to fend off a persistent reporter. The once impeccable hair was now askew. Suddenly a hush fell over the crowd. A roar of engines echoed from outside, growing louder. Not one Cadillac, but a small convoy. The doors of the Grandview swung open, and the king himself strode in. Elvis Presley. He wasn't in a flashy jumpsuit, but a sharp dark suit, custom-tailored with a silk scarf tied loosely at his neck. His sunglasses shielded his eyes, but the confidence in his stride, the aura of charisma that followed him, was undeniable. He moved with the grace of a panther, every head in the lobby swiveling to follow him. Bodyguards formed a silent perimeter, but Elvis seemed unfazed by the throng. He scanned the room, his eyes finding Vernon instantly. A broad, genuine smile lit up his face. "Vernon, my man, you found a room, I hope," he boomed, his voice carrying effortlessly over the buzzing crowd. "I did," Elvis Vernon replied, walking towards him, a grin matching the king's. "The presidential suite. Actually, apparently, it was suddenly available." Elvis chuckled a deep rumbling sound. He clapped Vernon on the shoulder. "Good. Good. Nobody denies my friends a bed." He took off his sunglasses, revealing eyes that sparkled with mischief and determination. He surveyed the reporters, then his gaze settled on Mr. Sterling, who looked as if he wished the marble floor would swallow him whole. "Good morning, everyone," Elvis announced, his voice naturally amplifying, filling the vast lobby. "You all heard the rumors, and I'm here to confirm. As of last night, the Grandview Hotel is under new management. My management." A ripple of excitement went through the crowd. Cameras flashed. "Now, I know some of you are wondering why," Elvis continued, gesturing broadly. "And the truth is simple. My good friend, Mr. Vernon Turner, here, who travels for me, who helps keep things running smooth. He was denied a room here yesterday. told there was no vacancy, treated like you wasn't good enough for this place. Well, let me tell you something. Elvis's voice became softer, more earnest, but no less powerful. That ain't how I do business. That ain't how I believe folks ought to be treated. Every single person, from the biggest star to the humblest traveler, deserves respect and a warm welcome, and it needed a new owner who would. He paused, letting his words sink in. So we bought it. Simple as that. From now on, this ain't just the Grandview. This is going to be a place where kindness is king, a place where everybody feels at home, a place where the music plays and the smiles are free. He then turned to the assembled hotel staff who stood in a nervous huddle. Now, I know y'all are worried about your jobs. Let me tell you this. If you're good folks, if you're ready to treat our guests with kindness and a genuine smile, then your job is safe. In fact, it's about to get a whole lot better. However, Elvis said, his voice hardening slightly, those who don't understand the meaning of hospitality, those who prefer to look down on others, well, they won't be part of the new Grandview. Mr. Sterling looked as if he was about to faint. Mr. Sterling, Elvis continued, I understand you had a particularly difficult time finding Mr. Turner a room. Given that, I don't think you're quite suited for the new direction we're taking. This hotel, if fadedly, your services are no longer required. The bellhop from the previous evening, who had witnessed Vernon's initial encounter, looked on with a mix of awe and satisfaction. However, Elvis added, softening his tone again, I believe 6 months severance pay, Mr. Sterling, to help you find a place where your particular talents might be better appreciated. I hope you learn a lesson about treating people right. Mr. Sterling, pale but nodding, mumbled a thank you before retreating quickly through a staff door. The young woman from the desk, Brenda, if Vernon remembered correctly, looked relieved, even a little teary. Elvis then turned back to the remaining staff. All right, team, here's the deal. I want this to be the friendliest, most welcoming hotel in all of Nashville. We're going to spruce things up, bring in some new ideas, and most importantly, we're going to make sure every guester. Vernon nodded deeply, moved by Elvis's unwavering support and vision. And for all you reporters, Elvis concluded, raising his hands, that's all for now. You'll hear more about the new Grandview in the coming days. For now, I gotta go find a guitar and maybe teach these wolves. With a final wink, Elvis turned, took Vernon by the arm and led him away through a side door, leaving the media circus and the stunned staff in their wake. The Grandview Hotel had been bought on a whim of loyalty, and already it was clear it would be run with a heart of gold. In the days that followed Elvis's dramatic entrance, the Grandview Hotel underwent a transformation that was as swift as it was profound. Elvis, true to his word, plunged into the project with characteristic enthusiasm, treating it like his newest, grandest song. He didn't just appoint Vernon as general manager. He listened to him, too. Vernon, who had always been the quiet, methodical one, found his voice offering practical advice on hotel operations, while Elvis brainstormed grand, sweeping changes. Vernon, this lobby, Elvis declared one morning, sweeping a hand through the vast space. It's beautiful, sure, but it feels like a museum. We need music, live music, not just in the bar, but right here. A piano, maybe a small stage. Imagine folks coming in after a long drive, and there's a sweet melody welcoming them. Vernon, initially skeptical about live music in a quiet lobby, saw the logic. It would certainly make a statement, Elvis, something no other hotel does. Elvis's vision extended beyond just music. He held daily meetings with the existing staff, not in a stuffy boardroom, but often in the hotel's main dining room, over platters of southern fried chicken. He listened to their suggestions, their complaints, their hopes. He learned names, remembered details about their families, and made them feel valued, truly valued, for the first time in years. Brenda, The young woman from the front desk, who had been present during Vernon's denial, approached Elvis shyly one afternoon. "Mr. Presley, sir," she began. "I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Sterling. He made things very difficult here. He never trusted us, always looked over our shoulders. You've changed the whole atmosphere." Elvis smiled warmly. "Brenda, darling, call me Elvis, and I appreciate that. I just believe in treating folks right. Now you got any ideas on how we can make this front desk even better? What do guests really need when they walk in?" Brenda, emboldened, suggested a faster check-in system, a complimentary welcome drink, and a small, carpeted gift shop featuring local Nashville artisans. Invitation. "Now that's what I'm talking about, Brenda. See, you know what folks want, Vernon. Get Brenda on that gift shop idea. And a welcome drink, absolutely." The staff, initially wary, quickly embraced the new energy. The once stiff doorman now offered genuine smiles. The bellhops whistled tunes as they carried luggage, and the cleaning staff took extra pride in their work, knowing their efforts were seen and appreciated. They even started calling the hotel affectionately the King's Inn. Elvis had the plush but slightly dated furniture in the lobby replaced with more comfortable contemporary pieces that still retained a sense of elegance. A grand piano was indeed installed, and local musicians were invited to play short, impromptu sets throughout the day. The hotel's previously stuffy restaurant was rebranded as the Blue Suede Cafe, featuring classic Southern comfort food and nightly live music, often with Elvis himself making a surprise appearance for a few songs, sending guests into a frenzy of delight. One evening, a woman approached the front desk, looking flustered. "I'm so sorry," she said to Brenda. "I must have mixed up my dates. My flight was delayed, and now I've missed my reservation at another hotel, and they're completely booked. I just need a room for the night, anything." Brenda, instead of Mr. Sterling's cold dismissal, offered a sympathetic smile. "Oh dear, that's no problem at all, ma'am. Welcome to the Grandview, or as we like to call it, the King's Inn. We always have a room for those in need." She quickly checked the system. "Looks like we have a lovely single available on the 5th floor, and because of your troubles, the first night is on us. With our compliments." The woman's eyes widened. "Really, you're so kind. I've heard about this place on the news. How Mr. Presley bought it. I guess the rumors are true about him being so generous." Brenda winked. "He sure is, and he's got a great team backing him up, making sure everyone feels welcome." Vernon, observing from a short distance, felt a swell of pride. This was it. This was the change. The Grandview was no longer just a building. It was becoming a beacon of hospitality, a testament to what happened when a powerful man chose to use his influence for pure, unadulterated kindness. He watched the relieved smile on the guest's face, the genuine warmth in Brenda's eyes, and knew that the impulsive decision made that fateful night was already paying off in ways far more valuable than any financial ledger could measure. The heart of the Grandview Hotel was beating with a new, much kinder rhythm. The Grandview Hotel, under Elvis's unexpected ownership, quickly became more than just a place to sleep. It was a buzzing hub of activity, a vibrant intersection where the ordinary met the extraordinary. Elvis, despite his demanding music career, made sure to visit regularly, often staying for days, personally overseeing changes and greeting guests. Vernon, now a fully fledged manager, found himself thriving in the dynamic environment. One afternoon, a man entered the lobby, looking somewhat disheveled, but carrying an old, well-loved guitar case. He approached the front desk with a hesitant air. Brenda, now completely at ease in her role, greeted him with her usual cheerful smile. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the Grandview. How can I help you?" The man nervously adjusted his hat. Good afternoon. My name's Charlie Davis. I don't have a reservation. I know you folks are probably booked up, what with all the buzz about Mr. Presley and all, but I just came by on a long shot. I heard you some more." We certainly do, Charlie. In fact, we're always looking for new talent. Do you play? Charlie nodded, patting his guitar case. Been playing for 30 years. Came all the way from West Virginia, hoping to get a break in Nashville. But it's a tough town, even tougher for an old-timer like me. He looked down, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Sleeping in my car mostly. Just hoped maybe I could play a tune or two for some tips. Earn enough for a meal. Brenda's heart went out to him. She remembered Mr. Sterling turning away Vernon and how Elvis had responded. This was exactly the kind of situation Elvis had vowed to change. Charlie, she said kindly, how about you play a few songs for us? And if Mr. Presley likes what he hears, maybe we can work something out. Just then Elvis himself walked into the lobby, Vernon at his side. He'd been reviewing some renovation plans for the ballroom. His eyes, ever scanning, landed on Charlie and his guitar case. Well, hello there, son, Elvis boomed, his voice friendly and inviting. What's that you got there? A guitar. Charlie's eyes went wide. He immediately recognized the king. He stammered. Why, yes, Mr. Presley, sir. It's my guitar. I'm Charlie Davis, and I was just hoping to play a little. Well, don't just stand there, Charlie. Let's hear it. Elvis gestured towards the grand piano near the small stage setup. Brenda tells me you've been out on the road. Come on, make yourself comfortable. Charlie, still in disbelief, gingerly unlatched his guitar case. He pulled out a worn acoustic, its wood smooth from years of playing. He took a deep breath, looked at the crowd that had gathered, including Vernon and Elvis, and began to strum. His voice, rough but soulful, filled the lobby with an old country blues tune, a tale of hard times and traveling. It wasn't flashy, but it was authentic, born of experience. He played a second song, a heartfelt ballad he'd written himself about chasing a dream that seemed forever out of reach. When he finished, the lobby was silent, then erupted in applause. Elvis clapped loudest of all. Charlie, Elvis said, walking closer, that was some real music, so I can hear it. You said you're looking for a break? Charlie nodded, tears welling in his eyes. Yes, sir. Been trying my whole life. Well, you just found one, Elvis declared. Vernon, he turned to his friend. How about we offer Charlie a gig? Nightly? Right here in the lobby. Des would love it, and Charlie Elvis looked back at the musician. You can have a room here, on the house, for as long as you play for us. A good meal, too. Mr. Presley, I don't know what to say. That's incredibly generous. Nonsense, Charlie, Elvis said, waving a hand dismissively. You got talent. And this hotel, our hotel, is about celebrating talent and making sure folks are treated right. Vernon here can tell you that's rule number 1 around here now. He winked at Vernon. Vernon stepped forward. It's true, Charlie. We'd be thrilled to have you. We'll get you set up with a contract, fair pay, and a comfortable room. And if you're up for it, maybe even help you get some of your original songs recorded. Charlie, overwhelmed, could only nod, tears now streaming down his face. He shook Elvis's hand, then Vernon's, a look of profound gratitude on his face. Later that evening, Vernon watched Charlie perform, now freshly showered, dressed in clean clothes and playing with a renewed spark in his eyes. Guests sat in the lobby, sipping drinks, listening raptly to the music that now filled the Grandview with warmth and soul. Vernon thought about the past few weeks. From the cold, dismissive front desk manager to the scene of genuine connection and kindness, it wasn't just a hotel anymore. It was a place where dreams were nurtured, where strangers found a home, and where an impulsive act of loyalty had blossomed into a flourishing testament to the power of human decency. Elvis hadn't just bought a building, he'd bought a chance to spread a little more love and understanding in the world. And Vernon, his quiet, steadfast friend, was proud to be part of it. The Grandview Hotel's transformation under Elvis's ownership wasn't just an internal change. Its ripple effects soon spread throughout the Nashville community. The local papers, initially focused on the sensational story of the purchase, began to report on the positive changes taking place within the hotel and, subsequently, its broader impact. Elvis, with Vernon's steady hand guiding the practicalities, initiated several community-focused programs. The first was Nashville Night, held every Tuesday in the Blue Suede Cafe. Instead of hiring established acts, Elvis opened the stage to aspiring local musicians, offering them a professional venue, sound system, and a chance to perform for a paying audience. The fee for entry was modest, with all proceeds going directly to the performers. Charlie Davis, now a regular fixture in the lobby, became the unofficial mentor for these young artists, offering advice and encouragement. Many talented musicians previously struggling to find a platform found their first break at the Grandview, some even catching the attention of record label scouts who frequented the popular news spot. "Vernon, this ain't just about making money," Elvis said to his friend one evening, watching a young singer-noker captivate the crowd. "This is about giving back. Nashville gave me so much. It's only right we help the next generation find their way." Vernon nodded. "It's making a real difference, Elvis. The other businesses on this block are seeing more foot traffic. The old diner down the street says its lunch crowd has doubled since we started the Nashville nights." Elvis grinned. "Good, we're all in this together. A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say." Another initiative was the Grandview's Helping Hand. Elvis established a small fund, managed by Vernon, to quietly assist local families facing hardship. Whether it was helping pay a struggling single mother's utility bill, or providing temporary housing for someone displaced by a fire, the hotel became a quiet haven for those in need. Word spread, not through press releases, but through whispered gratitude. People knew if they were truly in a bind and no one else could help, the King's Hotel might just offer a lifeline. One particularly cold winter evening, a small local charity struggling to find a venue for their andrary approached Vernon. They couldn't afford the usual banquet halls, and their event was in jeopardy. Vernon immediately consulted with Elvis. "They need a big space, Elvis, and they're almost out of options. They're doing good work, feeding and sheltering folks, but they're almost broke themselves." "Vernon," Elvis said, without hesitation, "tell them the Grandview Ballroom is theirs, free of charge, and tell them our kitchen staff will prepare the food at cost, and I'll even throw in a surprise." The fundraiser was a roaring success. Elvis's impromptu performance drew a crowd larger than the charity had ever imagined, and the donations poured in. The event generated significant positive publicity, not just for the charity, but for the Grandview, further cementing its reputation as a compassionate and community-minded establishment. Local schools started organizing field trips to the hotel, marveling at the history and the grand architecture, but also learning about the hotel's commitment to service and kindness. Elvis, whenever he was in town, would often pop out to greet the kids, sign autographs, and sometimes even lead an impromptu sing-along. The hotel also launched a job training program for disadvantaged youth, teaching them hospitality skills and offering them entry-level positions. Many of these young people who might have otherwise struggled to find employment found not just jobs, but a supportive community at the Grandview. One day Vernon received a letter. It was from Mr. Thompson, the Grandview's previous owner. "You didn't just buy a hotel, you bought a purpose, and Nashville is better for it." Vernon showed the letter to Elvis, who read it, then simply smiled. "See, Vern, sometimes doing the right thing, even when it seems crazy to everyone else, turns out to be the smartest thing you can do." The Grandview Hotel, once an emblem of cold, exclusive luxury, had become a beating heart in the city, a testament to Elvis's unique brand of generosity and Vernon's steadfast dedication. It was a place where a denied room had turned into an open door for an entire community. No venture, no matter how well-intentioned, is without its challenges. Even the King's Inn, as the Grandview was now affectionately known, faced its share of bumps in the road. Not all competitors were happy with the new wildly popular hotel. Some tried to mimic its community programs. Others spread rumors, and a few even tried to poach staff. One particularly nasty article appeared in a Nashville gossip column, claiming Elvis was rarely at the hotel and that Vernon, his manager, was actually running it into the ground, mismanaging funds, and that the kindness was just a publicity stunt. The article hinted that the hotel was already failing, despite its apparent popularity. Vernon was furious. He burst into Elvis's private suite, waving the newspaper. "Elvis, you see this garbage? This is an outright lie. We've increased bookings by 50%. Our staff morale is through the roof. How could they print this?" Elvis took the paper, reading it calmly. He raised an eyebrow at some of the more outrageous claims. "Well, now, Vern, folks are always going to talk, especially when you're doing something different. Some people just don't like it when things ain't the way they've always been." "But it's damaging," Vernon insisted. "It makes us look like frauds, like we're not serious about what we're doing here. And are we?" Elvis asked, looking Vernon squarely in the eye. "Are we? We're doing it because it's right. Because you care about people and I care about making sure your vision works." "Then that's all that matters," Elvis said, tossing the paper onto a table. "We don't need to fight fire. With fire, we fight it with more of what we're doing. More kindness, more good deeds, more music. That article will be forgotten next week. But the good we do here, that lasts." Instead of issuing a furious press release, Elvis chose a different approach. He organized a massive Community Appreciation Day at the Grandview. The hotel opened its doors completely to the public, offering free tours, complimentary food from the Blue Suede Cafe, and a full day of live music on every floor, featuring Charlie Davis and dozens of local artists. Elvis spent the entire day mingling with the crowd, signing autographs, taking photos, and personally thanking everyone for their support. The event was a phenomenal success. Thousands of people flocked to the Grandview, and the local news, unable to ignore the sheer positivity, covered it extensively. The articles that followed praised the hotel's open-door policy and Elvis's genuine connection with his fans and the community. The negative gossip column was quickly forgotten, drowned out by the overwhelming goodwill. Another challenge arose when a major convention, originally booked at the Grandview for years, threatened to pull out. The convention organizer, Mr. Henderson, a notoriously demanding client, claimed the hotel had become too informal, too loud with the live music, and not exclusive enough for his high-paying attendees. "They want the old Grandview back," Elvis Vernon explained after a tense meeting with Henderson. "He says the lobby music is distracting, and the staff are too friendly with the guests. He says we've lost our sophistication." Elvis listened. His brow furrowed. This was a significant booking, important for the hotel's bottom line. "So he wants us to stop the music? Stop being friendly?" "Essentially," Vernon confirmed. "He wants a return to the old Grandview standards, or he's taking his business elsewhere. And he's a big name in the convention circuit." Elvis paced for a moment. "No," he said finally, his jaw set. "We don't compromise on who we are, Vern. Not now, not ever. This hotel stands for something. We're not going to turn away the spirit we built just for one convention." Vernon nodded relief. He knew Elvis wouldn't back down, but it was still good to hear. "So what do we tell him?" "Tell Mr. Hender that Grandview is now a place where genuine hospitality and a warm atmosphere. Come first, tell him we encourage him to find a hotel that better suits his exclusive needs." And then Elvis added a mischievous glint in his eye. "Call up the Nashville Songwriters Guild and tell them we've got an open week for a big conference, and we'll offer them a special rate." Mr. Henderson was furious, but within days the Nashville Songwriters Guild, thrilled by the opportunity to hold their annual conference at the Grandview, filled the canceled booking, bringing with them a vibrant, enthusiastic, the flowering with thang. The hotel hummed with creativity and camaraderie, making far more in goodwill and future bookings than the Henderson Convention would have ever provided. These challenges, rather than breaking the Grandview, only solidified its unique identity and mission. Elvis and Vernon, side by side, proved that their vision for a kinder, more welcoming hotel wasn't just a passing fancy, but a sustainable, deeply rooted philosophy. They had built not just a successful business, but a thriving testament to the power of principles. Years passed, and the Grandview Hotel, now officially rebranded as the King's Nashville Inn, stood as a landmark, not just of luxury, but of legendary hospitality. The story of its purchase of a denied room leading to a radical transformation had become a cherished part of Nashville lore. Elvis, though his music career continued to soar, remained deeply involved with the inn. He considered it a passion project, a living embodiment of his belief in treating people right. He would often drop in unannounced, pulling up a chair in the lobby, chatting with guests, and occasionally, to the delight of everyone present, picking up a guitar and playing a few impromptu songs. Vernon Turner, still managing the hotel, had found his true calling. He was no longer just Elvis's loyal friend and road manager. He was a respected hotelier, known for his calm demeanor, his meticulous attention to detail, and his unwavering commitment to the inn's core values. He oversaw expansions, developed new community programs, and personally mentored every new employee, instilling in them the philosophy of genuine heartfelt service. The staff at the King's Nashville Inn was renowned throughout the industry. Many of the original employees, like Brenda, had risen through the ranks, now holding key management positions. They were a family united by a shared purpose and a deep loyalty to Elvis and Vernon. Brenda, now the assistant general manager, still greeted guests with the same warm smile, her eyes sparkling with the genuine care that had become the inn's hallmark. Charlie Davis, the bluesman who had once slept in his car, was now the resident musician, a beloved figure who performed nightly in the lobby and coached aspiring artists at Nashville Night. He had released 2 successful albums through a small label, crediting Elvis and the King's Nashville Inn for giving him his second chance. The inn's charitable work had grown exponentially. It had partnered with numerous local organizations, becoming a hub for community events, fundraisers, and outreach programs. The Grandview's Helping Hand Fund had grown into a substantial foundation, quietly providing support to countless individuals and families in need across the city. One sunny afternoon, Vernon stood in the now bustling, music-filled lobby observing the scene. A young couple was checking in clearly, awestruck by the grand yet welcoming atmosphere. A group of tourists giggled as they took photos by the display of Elvis memorabilia, carefully curated to tell the story of the hotel's unique history. Charlie Davis's soulful guitar notes drifted through the air, creating a soothing backdrop. Elvis walked up beside Vernon, a content smile on his face. He watched the scene for a moment, then nudged Vernon playfully. "Remember that night, Vern, when that Mr. Sterling acted like you were a piece of dirt, said he didn't have a single room for you?" Vernon chuckled. "I remember Elvis. Felt like the end of the world for a minute there." "Well, look at it now," Elvis said, sweeping his hand across the vibrant lobby. "No matter who walks through these doors, they find a room, they find a welcome. And it's all thanks to you, Elvis," Vernon said, turning to his friend. "Most folks with your kind of money would have just gone to another hotel. You chose to make a statement, to make a difference." Elvis shrugged modestly. "It wasn't just the money, Vern. It was the principle, that kind of meanness. It just ain't right. And sometimes you gotta do something big to show folks that kindness is more powerful than anything." He put an arm around Vernon's shoulder. "Besides, I couldn't let my best friend sleep in his car, could I?" Vernon smiled, a deep warmth spreading through his chest. He thought about that cold, dismissive encounter, and how it had sparked such an extraordinary chain of events. A small act of unkindness met with an overwhelming wave of loyalty and generosity, had not only transformed a building but had created a lasting legacy of warmth, music, and community spirit. The King's Nashville Inn stood not just as a monument to Elvis Presley, but as a living testament to the simple, profound truth that sometimes the greatest triumphs begin with the smallest acts of defiance against disrespect, and end with an open door for everyone. And Vernon Turner, the man who was denied a room, was now part of a story where everyone was welcome always.